Hi again. In this video, we will discuss the OKR best practices, and more specifically, we'll discuss how to write good team OKRs, what is the difference between KRs and initiatives, KRs and KPIs, and what are the most common challenges. In this video, we will also cover a very detailed step-by-step example for setting and aligning OKRs in a company. If you didn't watch the alignment and management best practices just yet, please go back to the first video before you watch this one, because there are some important conceptual terms and knowledge that you need to understand this workshop in more detail. So let's begin. How to write good OKRs. Obviously, OKR stands for objective and key results, and the OKR structure looks like this. Objective is an improvement area, problem statement for a quarter. Key results are measurable outcomes that define how you're going to achieve or what you're going to impact to prove that your objective is achieved. And initiatives are those activities that you're going to be doing to impact the measurable outcomes that you defined in your key results. So now let's take a look closer at every single one of these categories and conceptual objects to understand how to approach them properly. So first of all, objective as an improvement area. You can use a specific formula or specific phrasing to write your objectives, which is we will focus on driving this change. Why? To solve this problem. So the point here is that you define the focus area, but you also say why it is important. Let's take a look at a few examples. So some bad objectives would look like this: implement the process, risk management, increase leads, achieve 50% increase in revenue. Let's take a closer look at each one of them. So why is this a bad objective? First of all, which process? Why are you implementing it? What is wrong with what you're trying to impact? What are you trying to fix? What is the problem here? And more importantly, how will you know that this is a success story, that you are being on track? So there are many, many questions, and that means usually that the objective is not clear. It's not a problem statement. So an improved version can look like this: make tech processes self-explanatory. Why? To improve employee onboarding. So maybe this process, after all, is about onboarding our employees and helping them to use our internal tools to do that. So here we have a focus area: tech processes, make them self-explanatory. Now, why are we working on it? To improve employee onboarding. So you have both components here. Now, risk management is a bad objective. First of all, it's better if you include a verb, like an active verb in your objective. So it's really something that you want to accomplish. But also, why are you doing this? What are you trying to fix? Is it a specific type of risk? Is it a new risk? Why did it occur? What is the underlying reason for this risk to prevent it from happening? Now, the improvement could be implement a risk management process when choosing new contractors. Why? To avoid penalties. Another example, increase leads. And this is an example that we really often see our customers come in with. So this is like one of the most common objectives out there. It's either increase leads or improve engagement, the two really, really popular ones. Why is it bad? Well, this is a forever objective. You will be increasing leads this quarter, next quarter, the quarter from now. It will always be important. So this is kind of sounds like a business as usual thing. However, if the leads are really underperforming and you know it from monitoring your key performance indicators, why is that? What is the problem that you need to solve to increase leads? Make that your objective. Kind of like present a stronger value proposition. Why? To nurture interest at an early stage. So this is a problem statement. This is just a generic statement. Achieve 50% increase in revenue is bad objective because technically it's a key performance indicator, or it's just a business metric, a target that you want to achieve. Just because you say that you want $1 billion doesn't mean that you really know how to achieve it, right? So your objective needs to be about how we're going to make it happen, and what exactly makes us feel that this is the important focus area to consider. So kind of your objective will always be one step further. How we're going to make it happen? Why is this important? Kind of like improve customer long-term engagement. Why? To facilitate retention and higher LTV. So this is what we're trying to do to impact our revenue, right? So make sure that your objectives, they consist of a focus area and it's clear why it matters. Not always you will include this part in the objective statement, but it's better if you do when you're just starting out with OKRs. So as a summary, your objectives need to be qualitative and inspirational, which means that objectives are not numeric targets or business metrics. They're not key performance indicators, no matter how much you want them to be. Because otherwise, if you use numbers and say increase revenue by 30%, if you use it as your objective, it's just the OKR method is not going to work for you because you're not doing the work. You're just trying to get it over with. You're not really following the methodology. Objectives are not cascaded deliverables, so you're not going to tell every team what they're going to do. They're going to decide which problems to focus on based on the input they received from the company objectives or the overarching objectives. Objectives should be a problem statement, so consisting of a focus area and why it matters, and some useful vocabulary: improve, achieve, identify, maximize, improve the way we engage our early stage customers, achieve a better lifetime value in our customers, identify our improvement opportunities through researching jobs to be done of our customers, maximize our early stage funnel to make sure we actually have people in the timeline, in the pipeline. It's all about figuring out what really matters for this quarter. So you can follow these questions to get started on this discussion. What problems are we facing? How do we solve them? What is stopping us? What could be changed for us to have better results as a team? Once again, I recommend individuals to do this exercise separately. So you do it yourself and then you discuss it as a team. Don't do it in a brainstorming team session because there is such thing as groupthink, where people are just repeating each other's thoughts without really giving it any additional thinking. Now, key results. And many people, many companies and teams say that key results is where they are struggling. However, usually if you're struggling with key results, it means that you poorly defined your objective. So if that is true, just make sure that you first define what is the problem area for the quarter, and it's going to be much easier to define your key results. But what are they, the key results? They are measurable outcomes that should tell you if the problem that you defined in the objective is solved. What does success look like? How can we measure change? Your key results need to be both measurable and actionable, meaning that if it doesn't have a number, it's not a key result, it's a deliverable, it's a project name, but not a key result. However, the key results, they're not a mix of business as usual metrics. This is what we mean when we say that key results, they need to be actionable. So it really needs to be about something that you can try and do and really see if that activity had any impact on your key results so that you can learn from experience. We'll cover examples to see how that works. Key results are not a one-off activity. So it's always an outcome of a series of activities. And you should have around 3, but no more than 5 KRs per objective. If you have more than 5, ask yourself if those are KRs or those are deliverables. Now, on the topic of KRs versus deliverables, let's take a look at this objective. Improve customer long-term engagement to facilitate retention and higher lifetime value. We always start with an objective. It's really the OKR structure is not objective separately, key results separately. It's one structure. So you define the problem that you want to fix, and only then you define how you're going to measure success of achieving that objective or not achieving it. So now let's discuss the difference between activities or what we do projects, outputs, tasks, to-dos, however you call them, and key results, which are supposed to be value-based outcomes or success criteria. When we have an objective like this, improve customer long-term engagement to facilitate retention, we might go directly into listing some activities that we want to do. So what are we going to do to improve engagement? We might say, we need to improve slides. We need to start tracking data in a CRM. We need to organize webinars. Those are all good ideas, perhaps. However, this is really not telling us what are we trying to accomplish. This is just about doing things, not about achieving them. So if we say we want to improve slides, really ask yourself, what are we doing this for? Are we doing it to improve the first impression the clients are getting about us? Okay, that could work. But what are we doing that for? So that people are maybe booking follow-up meetings with us. So that is something you can measure. Increase the number of second meetings from X to Y%. And that is the measurable outcome that you can track on a sliding scale, right? So the point is not to improve the slides. The point is to impact how your customers are viewing you, how they're seeing, or if they're seeing value in talking to you, right? So if, let's say, we improve the slides, we made fantastic slides, and we'll look at these numbers and nothing really changed, maybe the slides weren't the problem. Maybe we're talking to the wrong people. Maybe we're not talking to enough of people. So what is the problem? What are we going to try to make this happen? The best key results that you could write are always going to be about changing how people behave. So it's either how your customers behave or how you change your behavior internally, right? Now, the second type of a key result is a bit different from this one. So we'll discuss different approaches to writing key results. Let's say in regards to this objective, improving customer long-term engagement, we can say, okay, engagement is very important, but we need our data. We need to start tracking our data in a CRM so that we actually know if we are on the right track. Now, this may be important, but as long as it's just a project name or a statement that you want to do, it's not going to work. Because imagine a week from now, 2 weeks from now, are you successful? Are you off track? Are you doing the right things? How are you going to course correct just looking at this statement? It's not going to work. So one way to approach writing key results like this is by defining how exactly you're going to achieve the outcome you want of this process. So if you want to start tracking data in a CRM system, what do you really want? It's not about starting tracking. It's about actually getting some information. So what is that information? Probably it's either about implementing a CRM system from scratch or about already successfully using it. So technically, implementing a CRM system is a qualitative outcome. And if we just left it like this, it's really not measurable. But we can make sure that we define specific steps that we're going to take to make it happen, to achieve this successfully. And we can say that to achieve this qualitative outcome, we will follow 5 stages. We will choose the tool. We'll do the training for everyone in the company or for our sales team. We will import the data. We will build the dashboards, and then we will present results. So these are clear milestones, and you can measure achieving them on a sliding scale. So you just set your KR target value as 5, as in 5 milestones, and you track them on an ongoing basis. Why does this help you more than this? The reason is very simple, because if we are at stage 1 and we need to choose the tool, what do you need to prioritize? Well, probably you need to look into what kind of tools are there to do some research. Okay, this is done, moving forward. At stage 2, what do you need to prioritize? Well, you need to prepare the training, you need to understand yourself, how everything is working. So what it really does, it gives you the clear framework for prioritization. And that's literally the point of the key results, to help you understand what to do, how to prioritize, and what you're really trying to achieve by doing certain things. So a KR is never just one thing you do It's an outcome of a series of activities. This type of OKR obviously is not as powerful as this one, but at least it gives you the specific dynamic way to engage with your OKR. Now, the third type of OKR is sometimes it's probably the most common one, to be honest, because when we're working with OKRs, when we're just starting out, we usually really love to list all kinds of different solutions that we could do to make this happen. And one of those solutions to this objective could be to organize webinars, right? So this is technically a project that our hypothesis is that this project is going to work for us. So we really, really want to give it a try. We want to see what's going to happen. However, this is not a KR because it's not measurable. So how do we quantify something like this? If you have in mind a specific initiative that you already really, really strongly believe in, ask the question, how will you know this is bringing you any value? How will you know this is successful? In the case with webinars, maybe it's about achieving 1,500 attendees or potential clients to webinars in total. So this is something you can measure. Maybe it's not about achieving a specific number of attendees. Maybe it's really about getting 80% of participants to stay until the end of the session. Maybe it's about people clicking on certain links. Maybe it's about people signing up from your webinars. So how will you know these webinars are successful? It's not just about doing them. It's really about making sure you see value after you've done it. So these are three very different approaches to writing key results. Some of them will be more applicable to some teams, while others will make sense to the other teams. For example, sales and marketing teams, they are very data-driven, so they can really focus on the best outcomes that you can really focus on, which is people's behavior. However, maybe operational teams, admin teams, HR teams, they will really see the value in writing key results this way, because this will make sure that they work with their OKRs on an ongoing basis and they really learn from the process. So think about what makes sense and, well, just don't get stuck at this point, right? Write your OKRs and try to work with them throughout the quarter. Let's take a look at what it actually looks like once we created an OKR. This was very similar to what you'll see in your Weekdone account. So we have a client success team. Our objective is to improve customer long-term engagement, to facilitate retention and higher LTV. So we have the focus area, the why it matters, and now we have our key results, right? What we're going to focus on, what we're going to drive. So you can see here the target value is 60%. Here the target value is 5 milestones. Here the target value is 1,500 attendees. So when you're working with an OKR, let's say we've been working with it for 3 weeks. Now we'll look at the progress on the KRs and we see, okay, here we're green, we're on track. So something is working here, right? So whatever we've done, we improved the slides, we picked a different email copy to reach out to people. So that is working. And we can leave comments to actually indicate that things are working for us. Now here we are at milestone 3. So what do we need to prioritize? We need to import data. So what is holding us back? What do we need to fix? What is the problem? This is something you can discuss during your OKR check-in, right? And the third key result is miserably falling behind. And why is that? Is it that it's so hard to get people into the webinars? Do we need to improve our promotional channels? Do we need to bring marketing on board so that they can help us out to figure this out? So it's really what your KRs are telling you. If your KRs are able to provide you with this analytical framework for working with your goals on an ongoing basis, that's a successful OKR. Even if by the end of the quarter, you only achieve 46% or 16%, if your KRs gave you enough learnings throughout the quarter, and you can take those learnings into the future quarters and you can base your new OKRs off those learnings, that was a successful OKR. So don't get stuck. Now, another topic is on the KRs versus KPIs. Why key performance indicators don't make good key results? KPIs, they need to be monitored and analyzed, and they're not clearly actionable. Because if you see a KPI like achieve 1 million in Q1 or close 40% more deals in March, increase customer lifetime value from X to Y, it's not really clear how you're going to do it. So KRs need to be, yes, measurable, but also actionable. KPIs are just reflecting the health of your business, of the situation in your business. KPI targets might be hard to impact in one quarter. Clearly, from these examples, it's, well, something that you'll need to focus on for multiple quarters and try maybe different objectives, try different approaches to make it happen. And underperforming KPIs might be associated with several problems. So which one will you focus on? If you just create an OKR that consists of a bunch of your key performance indicators, it's really not helping anyone focus. It's just repeating the same numbers in different places, but it's really not working with what OKR method has to offer. So really think it through. If your key performance indicator is lower than it should be, and you want to be here, but you're right now underperforming, what needs to change? What kind of opportunities can you go after? What do you need to start with, and how are you going to address it from different teams' perspective? As an example, let's say we want to increase customer lifetime value from $2.5 to $6K, right? So we are right now here and we want to be somewhere here. What are we going to do? How are we going to address it from, let's say, a customer success team perspective? Maybe we want to establish regular communication with customers to keep them engaged. So this is one approach to impact this KPI. So basically you write OKRs to try to impact those things that you want to produce as a result, right? KPIs, they are consequences of your work. They are what you want. They're not how you're going to get there. OKRs are about how you're going to get here. So if you have this ambitious target in mind, what needs to change? So if we want to establish regular communication with customers to keep them engaged, we need to increase the number of email responses from 2 to 15%, reduce the response time in live chats from 6 to 1 hour, increase second meetings requests from 10 to 45%. So these are clearly actionable and they're clearly connected to regular communication in our objective. So first we define the hypothesis or how we're going to address this problem here, so underperforming. Then we define how we're going to measure if this objective is achieved. And that's the difference between KPIs and OKRs. To give you some ideas how to write key results properly, you can consider these questions. First of all, actually, don't forget to first write your objective. Don't write key results before you write the objective. It just doesn't work that way. Define the problem, then define how exactly you're going to measure success. So how will we measure change? What are the success criteria this quarter? What can we impact as a team? This is very important. The team that is writing the OKR needs to be fully responsible for impacting them. Cannot be, oh, we couldn't achieve our OKR because all of those other teams didn't do their job. No, write an OKR that you can fully own. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Ownership and accountability, they only work if you're writing goals that you can control, writing OKRs that you can control and achieve as a team. What can we measure to see a direct connection between our actions and KR progress? So if we come back here, make sure that you know that which specific initiatives you're going to start with to drive these outcomes. And key results in their phrasing and what they're focusing on, they already suggest what you need to prioritize. So there are going to be a lot of plans, there are going to be a lot of initiatives associated with something like this. So yes, you will have a lot to do, but you have a very clear set of outcomes to impact. And this is what keeps you focused. This is what helps you identify the 20% of effort that brings 80% of result. Okay, so now the only remaining part of the OKR structure is really what are we going to do? So initiatives to drive our OKR forward. Prioritizing what we do, based on the impact on the KRs. Initiatives are all about doing, learning if it has impact on the KRs. If it doesn't, iterate, doing again. Make sure your effort has value. So it's all about writing OKRs is all about prioritizing better and helping you stay focused and aligned in your organization. Now that you know what OKRs are, what they're not, what are the common challenges, let's take a look at a few examples and try to determine if those are good OKRs or bad OKRs. First of all, is this an OKR? Achieve 3x growth. Increase revenue from 5 to 10 million. Increase the number of customers by 50%. Each salesperson sells $3 million or items. Is this an OKR? Or is this just a bunch of metrics thrown together without really consideration of how we're going to make this happen? The second one, right? These are business metrics. They reflect performance, but don't say how you're going to improve it. Be very careful not to create OKRs that have zero value to how to focus or to how to align the company or the team. Make sure your OKRs are focused on specific problems and something the team can impact, own, and control. Now, is this an OKR? Launch a new process. Create a dashboard by this date. Prepare the documents, make a presentation, and then we track everything on a scale from 0 to 100%. So we do all of this. Are we successful? Okay, maybe we'll launch the process. What is the value of that process? Are we on the right track? Are we doing the right thing? What if we have 500,000 of these processes? Which one do we pick? So this is not an OKR. These are just projects written down in a form of an OKR. These are outputs, what we do. What it doesn't tell you, why are we doing this in the first place? What are we trying to impact? What is the problem that we have in mind? Why we're launching this process? That should be your objective. And your key results should be measurable outcomes that help you identify if you're achieving this objective. Let's follow a step-by-step example of a company setting OKRs at a company level and at a team level. We're going to cover the examples for marketing, sales, product, and operations. We have more examples in our learning center, but for the sake of time, we're just going to focus on a few teams. So let's say at a company level, we have two main questions. So question 1 and question 2. The first question is, we're good at keeping our customers, but we're not closing enough new deals. What is wrong and what needs to change for us to appeal to more clients? This is the first question. Now, the second question is, we need to scale our operations, but we have many flaws in our internal processes. How do we fix that? So these are company level questions. They're not yet written in the form of objectives, but it's a really good practice to get the team's answers and to get them thinking about their OKRs before finalizing the company level objective. Because once it's final, it may not provide as much information and as much background context for the teams, and you might need to do a lot more explaining. So make sure when you are proposing the questions, you're very, very clear what you're trying to achieve, where you're coming from, what kind of data you analyze to get here, and what is it that you really want from the teams. Now, with this question in mind, we have 3 teams ready to propose how they are going to approach these problems from their different angles. So let's start with marketing. Marketing says, we have been losing organic traffic to competition, and we don't have a unique offering anymore. We can leverage our relationships with existing clients, with long-term customers, to create stronger social proof. So marketing will focus on leveraging long-term relationships like the input they got from the company level. So we have good long-term relationships because we're keeping our customers, but we want to focus on new deals. So we're going to leverage our existing relationships to try to get and build new ones. Now, the sales team says that early on, our customers are asking similar questions, and we can take a proactive approach to suggest solutions before they become issues. More active early stage engagement could help us close deals faster. So it's really about closing enough new deals so that you have time to try to get more people in and focus on other things than just trying to cover all of your, business as usual in sales. Now, the product team is also concerned with early stage experience that the companies get, or that the users or the customers are getting from interacting with the product. So they say that first-time users take 5 minutes on average to explore the product, and a big part of them never comes back. How do we pitch the right features to the right segment and get them to experience the aha moment faster? So this is a set of questions that we start with, right? Obviously, to get to these questions, you'll need to have important discussions at every level and to actually get people talking and voicing their opinions. And that is why writing OKRs usually takes around a week or two. And if you're starting out, maybe even 3 weeks could be sometimes if you haven't done any formal goal setting before. So let's pick it up at the marketing level. So we've been losing organic traffic and we need to improve our offering. So we need to stand out with our value proposition. And for that, we're going to leverage our relationships with existing customers. How can we write an OKR about this? So our objective is directly connected to what we said here and says leverage our long-term relationships to increase our credibility and stand out from competition. So this is already maybe a shorter phrasing that addresses the problem that we defined here. Now, how can we measure something like this? Increase the number of referrals from clients from 2% to 15%. So if we are really good at leveraging our long-term relationships, our clients should be recommending us to other people. Achieve 20% engagement rate in our published testimonials, because it's not really about just publishing things for the sake of publishing them, but it's actually about getting credibility, which means if people are engaging, however you define engagement, either comments or clicks or signups, if people are engaging with your content, that means that that content is successful. Close at least 500 new deals coming from social proof efforts. Now, you may have more than one initiative. So here we have published testimonials, here we have referrals, and maybe these ones are the most important ones or the biggest ones, right? But maybe you have other things that you will be considering to experiment with how you can use your long-term relationships better. So all of the deals coming from testimonials or coming from social proof efforts will actually show to you if this here is successful. Okay, moving on to the sales team. So we want to be more proactive and engage our customers earlier so that we can build better relationships and close the deals faster. So our objective is to improve early stage communication process to boost engagement with new clients. Again, it's the same thing, but shorter, right? Here we have all of the explanations and the questions. Here we have a very clear objective. How can we measure something like this? Reach 3,000 views on the how-to tutorial video. So if we want to improve early stage communication, one way is to automate some of the things that we are answering to our clients, because if they ask similar questions early on, it makes sense to automate some of the answers and then get certain views on those answers to see if it's working or not, so that we have something to work with. Reduce the ratio of how-to questions in the chat from 60 to 20%. So let's say we have several categories of questions that people reach out with. One is, how do I do this in the product? And those are how-to questions. Other questions could be about pricing, could be about, do you provide some extra services? Do you provide this or that? But the how-to questions maybe occupy the majority of them all, and that is 60%. So if your tutorial video is successful, probably you should be achieving, or you should be reducing the number of questions that are coming in on this specific topic, right? And the third KR, increase the percent of email responses from 12 to 25. We're talking about early stage communication. In many companies, that communication, especially in B2B models, that communication means emails, right? Can be anything else, but the point is, choose the channel that you're going to focus on, where you're going to be improving this communication, and find a metric that will tell you if you're doing that, if you're improving the communication. So in this case, if we're sending out emails and people are responding to us, we consider ourselves successful. So that is it, right? So key results are really about how are we solving the issues that we defined in our objective, and can we own these KRs? Can we track them on an ongoing basis? Those are good key results if you can work with them on an ongoing basis. And the last example related to this company level direction from product. Product says that people are really struggling with early stage onboarding. So how do we pitch the right features to the right people, right? Improve first-time user onboarding experience to get users to discover value faster. So it's all about getting them to that aha moment faster. How can we measure something like this? First of all, we need to define the user segments, because here it was all about the right segments, the right features to the right segment. So we need to define what are the right features to which type of segment. So the first KR is to increase the percent of enterprise clients who use feature X within 7 days after sign up from 10 to 25%. Then increase the percent of individual users who set up feature Y within 7 days after sign up from 2 to 20. So we have very specific type of client, very specific type of feature that you define, and what do we want people to do with that feature. It's not about launching a feature, it's about getting people to use it. Focus on the outcomes. And then the third KR is to increase the percent of users who log in 3 times within 10 days after sign up from X to Y%. Here, the point is, maybe you have other types of clients and other types of features that you're going to try to expose those users to. And this is a general KR that will help you to measure those efforts too. So it's all about producing impact or making something happen, changing how people interact with your product based on the changes that you're making. Obviously, this may mean 10 features, 5 features, 60 features. Who knows how many features you'll need to try, how many experiments you'll need to run to impact these numbers. The point is, you need to be very clear on what kind of behavior you want to change. And those would be your outcomes. Product OKRs are normally all about how people interact with the product, unless those OKRs are about research. If you would like to see examples for researching things in the product team, please visit our learning center. We have a very good example about that there. Okay, so how would that look like if we structure it and align it across the organization? It would look like something like this. So at the company level, clearly, based on all of these discussions and what kind of questions we asked here, we have an objective to revisit and revamp value proposition to bring in more clients. And then we have marketing OKR, we have product OKR, and sales OKR driving the progress of this objective. So as you can see, the average progress of all of these OKRs are driving the progress of the company objective. And each OKR belongs to a specific team that will take ownership and will be accountable of achieving these outcomes. And these are the types of outcomes, the OKRs that teams can clearly own. They wrote them, so now they own them, and they will see if they can achieve them. If not, they will learn from the experience. If yes, well, let's analyze. Were we as successful as we thought we would be? And for that, you can do the retrospective meeting and analyze cross-functionally if you're really moving in the right direction. We had another company direction here, And I would like to use this example to show you how to write OKRs for operational teams that don't really have a lot of data that they're measuring internally. So let's say our company level question is, we need to scale our operations, but we have many flaws in our internal processes. So how do we fix that? Obviously, this is the type of objective that any team can participate in, but most of all, that would be operations team or admin team or HR team. I called it operations, but in general, it could be differently named in any companies. So what are our thoughts here? We have many assumptions on the topic of what is not working well in the company, but no clear picture as to what is really going on. We need to pick our battles and understand how to move forward from here. So yeah, we want to improve our internal processes, but we can't really measure anything or do anything significant if we don't understand what is broken. So how do we make sure that we actually focus on things that matter? So how do we write an OKR on this topic? We can say that we want to research workflow improvement opportunities to facilitate increase in productivity. So it's all about research. If your objective is about research, your key results are going to be all about getting enough information from that research. So you need to figure out how you're going to quantify it, obviously, right? So the first KR could be really about developing a strategy based on the analyzed needs. So you talk to people, you analyze feedback, and then what are you going to do with that feedback? How are you going to use it? How are you going to determine improvement opportunities? Since this is a qualitative outcome, you can quantify it by making sure you define the clear milestones, and the target value of this KR can be the 5 stages completed, right? So internal interviews, maybe a webinar to understand how to address issues like this, brainstorming with the team, confirmation internally, and then final proposal draft. So you can define milestones as you see fit. It's up to you. You can put it in the comment to this KR. But the point is, you need to be very clear what exactly you understand, how exactly you understand success for this quarter. It's kind of like your internal team promise or contract that you sign with one another to understand that, okay, this is how we understand success criteria. The second KR, feedback from 20 team managers analyzed. So you need to work with something, right, to develop a strategy. So this is something you can do as a part of your research. And reach at least 70% positive feedback responses about the third-party productivity training. So if we're really thinking about increasing productivity, training is one thing that you can do, right? And you can invite someone to do that training for you. But if that is something you want to try, how are you going to make sure that that was successful? So this is something you really need to consider, and you can measure the success of any session, any event by measuring how people reacted to it, right? Or how people, if they feel that this was useful or this was helpful to their needs, if that actually helped them to increase productivity. So if 70% of all of the participants tell you that it was successful, then you can consider it successful, right? You can use absolute numbers here. So it can be, instead of 70%, you can say 20 employees, right? So the point here is you really need to start by asking high-level important directional questions, and then have different teams propose what their thoughts are in regards to that company level problem or statement or direction, right? Once you are done with this exercise, obviously this is like a two-way communication street, right? So we have company level or company managers, leaders communicating their expectations to the teams. Then we have teams saying what they think about this issue. Then they try writing OKR, and then based on that, you can finalize your company level direction based on what you're really trying to achieve as an organization. So if you follow this process, you're going to be aligned towards the most important priorities, and everyone is going to be feeling involved in the goal setting process. And that is the most important part and achievement of working with the OKR methodology. We do have a lot more information about alignment and OKR examples, and you can either go to our learning center and find those examples there, You have many different topics covered there. Probably all of the questions that you've had or will have in the future are covered in there. But you can also join our newsletter that we are sending out bi-monthly, so once per 2 months. And we do include some new learnings, some interesting topics, and some case studies that we've done with our customers. So I do hope you enjoy. To join the newsletter, you can also head to our learning center and you will find the link to join the newsletter there. Thank you for your attention. And once again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us via hello@weekdone.com. The next video in this series is going to be dedicated to the Weekdone walkthrough. So we're going to discuss how all of the things that we've learned in these first 2 videos are supported by Weekdone as a tool. So see you then.